This is an interesting conversation. This person says, I don't know if I've just been spoiled over the years. Is there a greater, did they write a greater? Yeah, they did write a greater discussion about this. Let me put a timestamp on this one because this looks like it could be a fun one. Okay, RPG games that have a good story, where the story is put ahead of the gameplay in terms of overall importance, they're asking a question here. It says, I don't know if I've just been spoiled over the years with great quality fantasy novels, but the RPG genre that I grew up loving has felt incredibly shallow and lacking to me anymore, and it's not hard to see why. Just about every game decides first on mechanics and seems to build a lackluster story around those, making sure these mechanics get used a lot. It's so blatant that game descriptions almost never say anything about the story at all. I'm gonna say right out of the gate, you're not playing enough games if that's your perception. There are some amazing cinematic storytelling games out there, not the least of which are things like Cyberpunk 2077 and Phantom Liberty. Like, if you're not playing enough games, then yeah, your perception might be this. Or if you're playing only mass-produced Marvel-style games. But let's read the rest of this discussion. Roll for initiative, take attacks of opportunity, manage player location, the verticality of the battlefield, and turn-based tactical game RPG based on SRD 5.1 rule set. In Celeste, you make the choices, dice decide your destiny. Celeste, for example, there's nothing on the Steam page at all that says anything about the story of the game. Um, so, who cares if it doesn't say anything on the Steam page about the story of the game? They don't want to spoil it. Like, I can get where this person's criticism is coming from, but I've played Celesta. A matter of fact, I just talked about early in the stream. I just got my hands on Celesta's PDF campaign book that they sent me to go through, and we're going to be reviewing that here on the channel later. I've played Celesta all the way through, and one of the things I praised them on was the fact that they have this incredibly unique original world that they built their game around. The story is not the most original fantasy story ever written. It's very tropey in places, but it's still a fun story with an original setting. And this person bitching that the story isn't front and center on the Steam page makes it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Um, Probably because I've played the game and I can say that, well, I wouldn't, I might give you a synopsis of the story, but I'm not going to spoil the story in my Steam page for you guys. Like, if you look at our project, the most recent project we did, The Weave in the Void, like all you really know is that there's an epidemic going on. Um, there's something that's killing humans. There's tension between the human elements and the Fey elements. And your characters, whether you're reading the novel version, playing the tabletop version, or the point and click adventure game version, we don't spoil the story. We give you a high level view of what's going on. But what we really want you to focus on is the fact that the tabletop game is something where if you love D&D and D and you love Pathfinder, you're going to love this. If you love the Dragonlance novels, the Forgotten Realms novels, you're going to love our novel. If you love King's Quest and Quest for Glory and games like that, you're going to love our point and click game. Like, we're showcasing the mechanical reasons you might love it as opposed to the story reasons you might love it, even though it has a core central storyline that's here for everything. This person says, I'm here for the story. If the game feel feels good, there's a great bonus. I also am always here for the story. But it says here, it's so rare for me to complete an RPG these days because the story doesn't compel me forward. Baldur's Gate 3 and some of the Legend of Heroes games are the only RPGs I can think of that I've finished in the past 10 years. I'm going to come back to what I said earlier, which Dennis King just quoted me on. You're not playing enough games if this is your takeaway. So I feel like this criticism is completely invalid because they're not playing enough games. If they've only come across Baldur's Gate 3 and some Legend of Heroes games are the only RPGs they can think about in the last 10 years, they're not playing enough games. Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2, Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age 2, Dragon Age Inquisition. Um, what else can I think of? Like Rogue Trader, Pathfinder Kingmaker, Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, uh, Witcher 1, 2, and 3, um, Cyberpunk 2077, Cyberpunk 2077, and the Phantom Liberty. Like, I've already listed like 20 games already off the top of my head. So I kind of feel like this person's complaint about there's not enough story-based RPGs out there, they just aren't playing enough games. Um, They edited to say maybe it wasn't being clear enough. I'm wondering if games like this are still being made. I appreciate all the suggestions so far, but absolutely hoping for modern games of this sort, ideally games from the past 10 years. Well, I've just listed a whole bunch of them. Um, Someone says, he said, edit again, stop listing 10 plus year old games. It's missing the point of the post entirely. So I'm assuming a bunch of people in the comments are listing 10 plus year old games. Oh, yeah, somebody mentioned Mass Effect 1 through 3 as well. Yeah, this person's listing a bunch of really old games. But they do mention Disco Elysium is another good one. Cyberpunk 2077, Alpha Protocol, Fallout New Vegas, Rogue Trader. Someone mentioned. Um, the Yakuza series, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I do know it's out there for people. Um, Planescape Torment's way too old. Deus Ex is really old. Um, Tyranny is another good example of that's an Obsidian game if I'm not mistaken. Final Fantasy games. Yeah, somebody did mention Owlcat, the two Pathfinder games, which I mentioned earlier. I'm glad that all the Pathfinder. I'm glad that Owlcat games are being stood up here. Also, Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2 from Larian before Baldur's Gate 3. I just feel like this person's question is completely invalid because they don't play enough games. They've looked at like 3 games and said, these are the games that I like the story on, and I just don't feel like any games have been made in the last 10 years that have story. And I'm looking at the 3 games they've played and said, well, then you're not really playing games. Because there are, I mean, even Warframe, which is a free to play game, has a really good story at the core of it. Um, you know, plenty of good examples. If you like actually get out there and play games. Cool. All right. Homeless Bird says the Yakuza legal drama spin-off Judgment is a favorite of mine. Play as a detective. By the way, I just played, as example, 2 games that had really good stories. Flintlock, Siege of Dawn, and Nobody Wants to Die, which was a great science fiction noir game, detective noir series that felt a lot like Altered Carbon. Short games, but games that were literally focused on story. I mean, maybe Flintlock was a little more combat oriented, but looking at Nobody Wants to Die, that was 100% cinematic storytelling. Like, there's no combat in that game. It's literally a walking sim. It's like a point and click adventure game where you're just getting lots of cutscenes with voice dialogue and just tons of narration. Like, great examples of story-based games that you could be playing that are brand new. This is the other reason too. I mean, maybe it's because I do this for a living, but you know, I have GOG, I have Steam, I have Epic, I have those 3 apps. I also have a PS Plus subscription, and I have an Xbox Ultimate Game Pass subscription. So I am bombarded with free games every month. Like, I'll get 10, 15 free games every month. I barely play any of them. On top of that, I get all sorts of like exclusives for being a subscriber to these services. And Plague's Tale, great example. Someone just threw in chat. That's another great example as a great storyline series. I would even argue that New World has a good story at its core. Um, uh, Getting inundated with just games. I can't keep up with all of the amazing, great games that are being produced that have amazing stories and would be super fun to play. But I have to pick and choose. Like, I can't be everywhere at once. I'm one dude and this might be my job, but I can't realistically play every single game that comes out. I have to pick, especially when I'm being given free games all the time. It's like, you know, if I try 10 or 15 games in a month, that's a busy month for me. And I'm not going to be I'm not fully playing those 10 or 15 games. If I'm covering 10 or 15 games in a month, what I'm doing is a lot of first impressions videos and early thoughts videos of just like diving in and seeing what these games feel like. Maybe out of those 10 or 15, I play 2 or 3 of them all the way through. And then July is a good month. I tried a lot of different things in early July. Um, and then we found No Man's Sky, which proved to be it's going to be a very interesting distraction into August, but it's definitely, August I feel like will be a month where I don't try a lot of different things because we know that not Starfield, No Man's Sky. We know No Man's Sky is doing really well right now, and I have some more Starfield videos to produce. So August will be me doing some more Starfield content with a lot of No Man's Sky content mixed in with game news, and then August 22nd, early access for the War Within kicks off, and then August 30th is Star Wars Outlaws. So the month of August, I might only play uh, technically three new releases, which will be, well, two new releases, it'll be technically, which will be the War Within and Star Wars Outlaws, because No Man's Sky is not a new release, neither is Starfield. Um, so it just depends on the month. But yeah, there are so many good games produced. Person who wrote this on Reddit, get out there and play more games. Epic says, "Are you gonna?" Epic Claw asks, "Are you gonna play the Indiana Jones and the Great Circle when it comes out?" I'm assuming you must be new or just tuning in for the first time because I talk about that just about every single day. Um, I'm going to be playing. These are the games that are on my radar that I know I'm playing, and then there's other stuff that might crop up. We are going to be playing Star Wars Outlaws, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Avowed, Dragon Age the Veilguard, Shattered Space DLC for Starfield, Stalker 2, Space Marine 2, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, the War Within expansion for World of Warcraft. Those are all things that are happening from the middle of August till the end of the year, and those are just the known elements that I'm going to be playing this year. All of those, by the way, are games with amazing story that this reader or this writer on Reddit would be well to pay attention to. Would do well to pay attention to because they're going to be amazing story-based games. Um, so get out and play more games would be my suggestion to everybody. I'm a dude playing a dude dressed as another dude for sure. On that note, everybody, we're going to wind down the reaction part of this. I'm going to shut all the streams down, take a quick bio, and then I'm going to load up No Man's Sky, Uppercutting Come Black, and we're going to play for a little bit this morning. So if you want to hang out while I play No Man's Sky, give me 10 or 15 minutes to get the next stream up, but I do need a bio and a quick snack before then, and I'll catch you all live here in a few minutes. And if you're watching this after the fact, as this gets broken up into episodes and segments, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Daily streams happen on YouTube and Twitch, usually around 11 a.m. Central, but we do a lot of different stuff, play a lot of different games. We do live reactions, filming, chatting like this right here, and then we play all the other games. So check out all the different things that happen. Check out all the other different playlists. Check out the Discord. Check out the Patreon and all the socials, and I'll see everybody either in the next one or here in a little bit as I get the No Man's Sky stream up and going, everybody. Peace!